listeners, welcome to the WEBB Remedy Podcast. I'm Rinnie, Associate Director of WEBB Squared, and your podcast host and the producer of the podcast. We're so happy you're joining us today. We're kicking off Season 8 with a powerful new mindset series, 8 episodes focused on money, entrepreneurship, and the ways our mindset shapes both. This Money Mindset series is all about the ways our beliefs about money shape our business decisions, and we're excited to talk with someone who sees these patterns every day. I'm thrilled to be here with Stephanie Terry, Executive Director. Hey, Stephanie.
Hey, Rinnie.
Here with you, and you are the Executive Director and co-founder of WEBB Squared. And we have a special guest today, Venus Myles from PNC Bank. And Venus is deeply passionate about driving economic growth, equity, and resilience in underserved communities. And we are so excited to have you here today, Venus, and happy that PNC is sponsoring and partnering with WEBB to bring this series to life. Welcome, Stephanie, and welcome, Venus.
Hey, Venus, how you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good. We're finally back, right?
I'm so excited. Thank you both for having me today.
Yes. So we didn't get to, with the holidays and the cold, and then the cold, and then the snow, and then more cold. We haven't formally been able to just like get. I don't even think I told. No, I did tell you. We had a meeting where I told you Happy New Year. But
Yes.
yeah, I'm glad we're here. And quick question, do you have any new habits or routines that you're practicing this year? And are you still doing it? It's already in February.
I'm glad that you asked. I do look every year at the previous year and think about how I can grow myself. This year is just continuing to get deeper into my health journey and working to move more. Often we look at trying to have this big exercise moment each day and each week, but I've read that it's often better to just make sure that you have consistent movement throughout each day and every day. So I'm doing all kinds of things to make sure I'm walking a lot, and doing yoga every morning. So I'm parking far away, I'm taking the stairs, and just making sure that I move my body as much as possible, in addition to those exercise moments of strength training or solid core. So that's mine. What's yours?
All right, you're gonna be summer ready.
I just want to make sure if I fall when I'm older, I can get myself up.
Exactly. I feel you on that. No, that's so weird because I'm doing swimming. So I joined the Y, and I have a girlfriend, and we wake up at 5:30 and we swim.
Oh, that's
Um,
great. It's a really
but
great exercise.
I started doing that last year, but my big thing this year is block scheduling. It took me like 2 weeks into January to set up my calendars so that they could sync and remind me of that this is what I'm supposed to be doing during this time. And this is what I'm supposed to be working on in the next time. And I actually have my breaks and exercise in there. So we'll see how long it lasts. But
Huge block scheduling plan. I love that.
Rinnie, what about you, Rinnie?
Well, I don't know if people know, but I am moving to Pittsboro, North Carolina. And
Woohoo!
it's been my habit to work from home like 2 or 3 days a week and then commute almost an hour back and forth every day that I come over to Pittsboro. And so I'm going to be changing that habit and walking to work, 5 minutes walking versus an hour driving is going to really change my life. I'm really jealous of both of you and your routines around fitness. I think I've been just trying to get things in when I can, but it's not really a habit. But I think once I get over to Pittsboro and I'm closer to work and I'm closer to the community I serve, that, it might make it a little easier for me to like add the habit into my life.
Yeah. Well, Rinnie, how long have you been at your house?
Almost 20 years, Stephanie.
Oh my gosh. So this is you
Mm.
about to start a whole bunch of new habits.
Well, one of the things I'm looking forward to as well is having the office open more often. I was here last week and I had three entrepreneurs here at the same time working at at the desks in the office and working on their business. And it just made me feel so happy to be able to offer that co-working space to our entrepreneurs. And they can meet each other and build community. And I feel like that's really what I want to be doing this year is just continuing to help make these connections and build community within the clients we serve.
Wonderful,
It's
wonderful.
amazing.
So we're gonna move on to what we're gonna be talking about for this podcast. I would like for you, I like to understand just what a typical week looks like for you. And I'm hearing that you're doing a lot of work in the community. So you tell me more about your role and not in that order, however you like to jump in.
Well, I'll start with as you asked what a typical week looks like, there's quite a bit of travel, and that's because it's important to me to meet with organizations where they are. So I spend a lot of time going all throughout North Carolina to meet with partners and understand what they're seeing in the community, what the needs are, what their specific goals are for how they're going to support and make impact. And then learning if there's a way that, we can align in partnership or if I can provide connectivity that will assist them in being able to reach the community in the way that they want. So a lot of travel, which I love and enjoy. I love all the people that I'm meeting and all the different types of communities that we have in North Carolina. And then, of course, there's quite a bit of administrative work in regards to just reading and understanding. I try to spend a lot of time making sure that I know what's happening in our local economies, who might have, decision making or impact on that, and how that impacts the community members that we serve, so that I can make sure that we're aligning our partnerships in a right way and doing it in a way that's going to be important and reach people where they are and actually affect the needs that they have right now, as
Nice.
opposed to those that I might perceive.
I'm imagining you in your car driving our beautiful state of North Carolina. Like, it's so cool from the mountains to the beaches and all the
It
food.
is.
Yes.
So may I ask a question? What kind of needs are you seeing in the community these days when you meet with entrepreneurs and the various folks that you're in conversation with? What's coming up? What are some of the big needs that people are facing?
That's a great question. So there's actually a few different ways that we assess those needs. So in addition to direct conversation, we actually have a meeting where we invite local leaders of organizations to come to our office and share with us directly what those needs are. And then we also send out a survey to as many of our community partners as possible, just to make sure we don't miss any feedback. And what we hear the most is support around small business and entrepreneurs with helping with learning how to scale, technical support, and questions just around financing and access to capital. And then the second need would be around affordable housing, and not just the construction of, but understanding how to access housing, whether that be education around credit training, understanding the transaction if you're going to purchase, and all of those things that could contribute to not being able to remain in the home through foreclosure or eviction. So education around being able to maintain housing. Those are the two things that we hear the most.
So is that what community development banking means? Like being hands-on with the needs that you're seeing in community and like helping them to solve problems? Or can you explain what that means? Like,
Absolutely. As you said, it's really understanding what the needs are and working to fill the gap. It's working in partnership with organizations like yours to make sure that we understand what the needs are and to close the gap around access to resources, access to capital, knowledge and expertise that might keep a population away from achieving generational wealth or being able to scale or have a sustainable and successful business. So we really are hands-on in making sure that we understand directly from you so that we're helping in the right way.
awesome. Did you go to school for this, or like how did you get How did you get into banking? I mean, some people, you may have just said, I want to be a banker when I grow up.
Well, I went to school for organizational leadership and management with a concentration in marketing. So I was definitely in a completely different world. Then I started working for a nonprofit, and it was from there that I was recruited directly into the to PNC Bank. But I had always worked with nonprofits in some capacity since I was about 15.
Mm,
I grew up in a rural environment, and I remember the challenges we had with just being able to have the right technology to compete with schools in larger metropolitan areas. And there was a group of us that wanted to have the ability to get SAT training and support, and we had to
mm,
travel quite a bit to do that. And so even then, I recognized that there were some communities that didn't have the same opportunities and access as others. And so from then, I started joining organizations to see how I could help and how I could support. And it was important to me to find out how I could do that in a way that was deeper and sustainable. So not just giving in the moment, but what is actually the root cause of the issue? And is it something that we can fix so that in the future, someone doesn't have to figure out how do we get 10 kids to SAT training? There's some way that we can do it locally, and then it's available for more students instead of just a small subset of that population.
I really appreciate that because, I grew up and where'd you grow up?
Westville, Indiana, the majority of the time, yes.
Really? Okay. So I completely different setting. I grew up in urban inner city New York.
Oh,
And
wow.
I remember like going to the bank was like such a huge deal. I just remember it being like a very big, kind of very stately and intimidating place to go with my mom, and it was very serious. And so I never connected like community and banking. It was, even though it is, because everybody had to have a bank account, but it's so good to know that PNC recruited you. So they knew that we need people that really understand community, understand access, and to bring them into the banking world so that we can start to really support small businesses and have more equity in ways that maybe, you don't have that association with banks. So this is great.
How has this experience moving into a banking career from where you started, how has that been transformative for you in your work and in your personal life?
It's been quite powerful. I definitely feel that it was placed before me at the right time, and everything that I've done growing up, from working for the nonprofit, working in a marketing firm, and all of the volunteer work with organizations and helping in my community all for over those years has culminated in this opportunity. And so I'm fortunate that I get to do something that I love every day. And I know that with every step I take, every task I complete, it's making direct impact on someone. That when I go to sleep at night, even if it's just a handful of people, we've made folks' lives better. And I feel really grateful that that's something that I get to do as employment when it was something that I always volunteered to do for most of my life. So it's been absolutely transformative.
Yeah, and
It's
we
really
love.
great. I'm sorry, Steph.
Oh, go, Rennie,
I
go.
was just say it's really great. We work with entrepreneurs, you work with entrepreneurs. It's really exciting when you see somebody have an idea or a breakthrough about how they're going to spend their life creating their business. And what do you get excited most about working with small business and entrepreneurs?
I think entrepreneurs are some of the most fascinating people that you could ever come across. I am excited about the fact that they have the bravery to take an idea and put it out into the world. I feel like they are some of the most passionate people that you could ever meet. When you think about the rest of it, I'm definitely scared to the thought of taking my idea and hoping that people feel that it's something worthy of and that they want to make investment into and grow. So for me, that's the most exciting part, that I could support their dreams. And there's a lot of different motivation behind those dreams. It could be just an exciting idea of a way that they can fill a gap or a need in the world. It may be what they feel will give their family the opportunity to have generational wealth and something sustainable to take them through the years, right? Something that they can pass down and be proud of. So for me, supporting that dream, that talent, especially when I don't have that, is probably the most exciting part of the job. I love sitting down and talking with them. I've yet to meet an entrepreneur that's not super excited about what they're doing. Thrilled, can't wait to tell me about it. I love seeing the way that their face lights up and how much they believe in what they're doing. When you think about all of that culminating into, one person or a family, how could you not want to make sure that they have everything that they need to be successful? And when I think about the country, a lot of where we are was built on entrepreneurs. Not all of them have been recognized the way they should be, and I think we're all working on that. But a lot of the successful things that have come to be have come from somebody's idea and their bravery to put it out into the world, but also someone supporting them and making sure that they could get a lift to get to the success that they deserve to have. So,
Our sponsor directly or something.
Okay. Okay. So let me say that again. So that is so great to hear, because we learned working with entrepreneurs in rural and underserved communities that they're not for lack of talent. They're usually not connected to resources, critical resources, to networks, and to the things that they need that they can thrive, in particular funding. So before we move on to our next segment, we're going to hear from our sponsor and from PNC Bank, and then we're going to come back and get down into the nitty-gritty.
As a bank, PNC prides itself on being boring. But the truth is, they couldn't be more excited to serve the dynamic Triangle community. They've quietly toiled away to deliver brilliant results for their equally brilliant clients. And they have dedicated PNC teams throughout the local area, all ready to do the boring work to help you unlock your own brilliance. PNC Bank, brilliantly boring.
PNC Bank, National Association, member FDIC. All right, let's get into it. Venus, we are working with a few business owners and entrepreneurs who are ready to explore financing options. Truthfully, for many of them, it's a little scary to unpack. We think about money mindsets and the way that we're socialized around money. And, people bring different cognitions around asking for money and preparing to ask for money. And so I think this segment, we're just going to do some banking 101 for entrepreneurs and tap into your expertise about what people should know when they're getting ready to meet with their banker, what they should bring, et cetera, et cetera.
So when I'm meeting with the entrepreneurs, they always ask these two questions. What questions should they be asking when they meet with their banker, and what documents and financial statements should they bring?
those are really great questions. So first, it's important to know that even though banks seem the same, they all can potentially be quite different. So it's actually good to do a little research before you even select a financial institution and see how that particular bank might be focused as far as industry specialization, the way that they impact the community, their overall growth, and just understanding the bank itself and making sure that that institution is a great match for your needs, goals, and what you're trying to accomplish. And then you want to narrow that down to the banker that you're meeting with, because it should be a relationship. You're going to work together to establish the steps that you need to take to meet the goals for your business, specifically often in regards to access to capital, but also other ways that you might be able to structure the way that you manage your overall financial picture, not just for your business and even for yourself. So it is important to make sure that you have great connectivity to your banker. So you'll want to ask them, what is their philosophy around how often you connect and communicate? that may be important to you, especially as you're starting out. Maybe you want someone that is willing and has capacity to meet with you biweekly or monthly. You'll want to understand if your banker specializes with working with small business owners. And there are some that is their expertise, and there are some that's something that they might do intermittently because they may be a generalist. And you'll have to think about the needs that you have and understand if that's someone that can work with you. Their access to other members within either the financial institution or the community that might have the expertise that you need to make sure that you're scaling the way you want to, but also that you've got future planning in place. So do they know an attorney or a CPA, or is there someone internally that can help with your personal financial planning to make sure that should something change in the business or when it's time for you to come out of the business, that you've set yourself up to make sure that you can go into retirement with ease. As far as documents.
Oh, wait, I have one question.
Sorry, of course.
It sounds like you're saying that the entrepreneur should probably make a relationship with the banker prior to actually applying for the loan. Like it's like they should share their plans about their business prior to asking for a loan?
Absolutely. Earlier you talked about new habits for the year, and a habit that I started 5 years ago is that when to start is today. So how that relates to bankers is often we wait to see the banker, the doctor, whichever professional until there's a need. And as a newer resident to the state, I found it took a long time to find the right doctor. But when you have that doctor and you need to make the appointment, because you have a relationship, you might be able to get in the same day or the next day. But when you're new, you might have to wait weeks or months. So how that applies to the banking industry is when you don't have a relationship with the banker and you're ready to gain access to capital, whether that be a credit card or a loan, there's more time that needs to be spent with understanding your business, the goals that you have, obstacles that you may or may not be aware of, and to putting you in the right place to be most successful in that journey. So it's really best to establish that relationship as you begin to build your business. They can give you advice in early stages to help make sure that you're setting things up in a way that's going to be most beneficial for your future steps. Thinking about making sure that you're organizing your finances properly, that you're connected to the right additional professionals to make sure that you're supported. That happens early on so that when you are ready to take the step to lending, you've built the infrastructure that you need to hopefully have success in that step.
Got it. Thank you.
So Stephanie, you also asked about documents, and there are a lot of different types and levels of documents that you can have. The most ideal document to bring would be audited financial statements that you've done with an accountant or professional. But as you start early out, that might be a significant expense. But if you can at least have your statements or finances organized in a manner that's able to be understood and read, and you have a great understanding of those finances, that will go a long way with being able to provide some direction and advice. So even if you're using a simple accounting system, or often your bank may have something already integrated through the online banking system that you can utilize to have an understanding of your cash flow. And often there's not even a cost for that. So the number one thing is to make sure that your finances are organized and you understand what's coming in and what's coming out, and you've analyzed it yourself. You know why maybe you're not yet profitable, or why there's been a spike in certain inventory or a drop in the need for or the purchase of certain services. And then secondly, it's great to have a business plan. Often there wants to be an understanding of how you want to grow the business, and what are the steps that you need to be able to do that you know who your competitors are, that you have an awareness of what your potential obstacles would be and what your plans would be should you encounter those, and as well as different ideas of how you will not only generate revenue, but if you need support with investors or other types of capital, what is your plan around accessing that? That really helps the banker that you're working with understand the best route to get you started on your journey and where you are, to give you advice. So that would be the two things is, organized financial statements, even if they're as simple as a spreadsheet or something you've used to do your online banking, and a business plan. And that can be simple as well, but there are lots of templates and access to resources such as Score that don't require a cost and will help you build a proficient plan.
Thank you very much. So those are all wonderful things to know. And I'm hoping when people hear this, they will contact us and say, hey, how can we start a relationship with the bank? But I also think that there's issues of mindset. Not everybody is there mentally prepared to go in and talk to a banker. And so maybe they feel embarrassed, or maybe they haven't ever talked about money before. I was telling one of the entrepreneurs that the other day that I really wish when I was younger, somebody would have talked to me when I was in my 20s about retirement funds and saving for retirement at an early age. I had to wait until I was in my 40s before I had that conversation with a financial advisor, because it was something that never came up for me. And so it takes, and then I felt embarrassed and ashamed by that, when I was talking to the financial advisor for the first time, going like, I should have done this when I was in my 20s. And having that mindset of being a little embarrassed, and people bring that into their conversations around money. And so there are some strategies we can use as coaches to prepare people for that, like that shift.
It's a great question. I will start by saying I have a similar story to you, Rinnie. I was so proud as, someone growing up in a rural environment that I was contributing to my 401k. Even though my parents had done really well, they didn't quite believe in credit. They had their own philosophy around retirement, and had a lot of fear about doing that in partnership with an advisor or a bank. So, I had self-taught, but like you, it was probably my late 20s when I found out that I was significantly under contributing. And when I met with my advisor, they told me that I'd be working till I was 87 if I just wanted to have a minimal survival level lifestyle. And so that was really alarming for me. And as I started in banking and I taught bankers on my team, and they were worried about going to the public in our community, because we were in my location was in an urban part of town. I explained to them that it's our duty to make sure. There was a woman that would call us every day or every month to make sure she had enough left over for buttermilk and this cornbread that she liked to get. I loved her so much. And I said, it's our job to make sure that someone like her never has to call us to make sure that they have enough money at the end of the month for a treat. Right? If someone had helped her a long time ago, she could be in comfort and knowing that she could reward herself and have that delight every month. So some strategies that we work on for us is we really try to make sure that we're going into the community and that they see that we care. And that is something even that you can ask your first banker about, right? Or that you all can have a connectivity of bankers that are willing to maybe come to the entrepreneurs. I often find that they take a lot more comfort when we're willing to see their space, see their business, and meet them where they are, as opposed to walking into a financial institution. And there are some that have that flexibility, and there are some financial institutions that do not. The other thing to help them feel comfortable with is maybe finding a piece that is not embarrassing, that they do feel comfortable with to begin the conversation. So they might be willing to just start with setting up something formal, such as an account, or there might be comfortable with asking about their personal finances, but really just understanding where are they willing to make the entry point to build a relationship and have that connectivity. But I think anytime that you can have bankers come to them, I think that is a great start. So one thing that we used to do when I first started out in banking and we would enter the community where we were based is talking about saving. A lot of our community members were uncomfortable with saving because they were worried about there wouldn't be an access to those funds or that they didn't make enough to save. So we would help them figure out what they were spending on, and we would start with a very nominal amount. So you would be surprised the percentage of folks that we had contributing $5 or $10 in their savings every time they were paid. But after a couple months, they were so excited to see the small surplus of cash that they had in that savings account, but also how it helped them when they had an emergency that before would have caused significant impact. So, for example, a tire going out, which you'd be surprised, $70 might mean someone deciding, do I buy groceries? Do I short my rent? Or do I fix the tire so I can make sure I can still go to work? So when they looked and saw that they had the money there and they were able to solve that problem successfully by saving, they were excited and it built more trust in us. They realized I don't have to do a large amount. I can do a small amount that I won't miss. And when I have an emergency, I've now built up a plan to make sure that I can meet that emergency. And now I don't have to take from another piece of my life that could cause more significant impact. So thinking about what is going to make them comfortable talking with the banker, where is an area where they don't have embarrassment to just begin the journey and start the relationship is a great strategy.
Yeah, I wanna lift up that, like, when I think about um my the mindset around money that I inherited from my family, right? It definitely wasn't entrepreneurial, even though my dad wasn't entrepreneurial, but it was, get a good job and hopefully the job has a 401k and you save that way. But a lot of the entrepreneurs that we work with, some of them, the backgrounds are varied. I mean, some come from families that, were educated, some come from families that were working. Some of the entrepreneurs have, graduated, some have not. Most very successful entrepreneurs have not really gone to school, and they kind of making it up as they go along around money, if that makes sense. So
Absolutely.
not necessarily examining if they have a scarcity mindset or a mindset of abundance. It's more, they do have like a very driven mindset of resilience and creativity and let's get it done. What I don't know if I want to say that let's get it done. They have a very brilliant and resilient and creative mindset. But when it comes to money, they may have an abundance mindset, like they want abundance, but it may be coming from a fear of scarcity. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And so the decisions that are made, like, so an abundant, like I want to make money, but I only have this much money, so I don't necessarily want to purchase uh, invest in uh, a a system that they may need to invest in so that they can actually make more money. Or I don't want to pay $50 for QuickBooks. I'm going to do it a month for QuickBooks. I'm going to do it by hand so I
Right.
can save money, right? And on the one hand, you are saving money, but you're also constraining how much money you can actually make because you're not tracking all of the ways that your money is being spent. And so, like that, the scarcity mindset I have seen lately shows up in not necessarily wanting to slow down and invest in building systems because you're so focused and driven on making money that you're not seeing how your profitability is being compromised. But what do you think? What are some signs that you have seen when someone is playing it small financially?
So there's actually published documentation around trauma around money that's directly related to how you may have grown up and what you were taught about money. So sometimes we see that move into when we start our own business and we become an entrepreneur, we start with those same philosophies. So sometimes ways that we recognize that is, unwillingness to break or create new behaviors to have success around money, unwillingness to meet those leaders in the community or establish the connectivity that will provide advice or knowledge on how to move forward with the business or how to manage or grow the money. And often, as you mentioned, we don't realize that that's actually prohibiting it significantly. If I'm not willing to make the investment or make the purchase or make the connection, I never get to the place of having an abundance mindset where I realize everything is there for me. I simply just need to learn how to obtain it and gain the skills, the access, and the resources to get to where I need to be.
Mhm.
So we often recognize that, as you asked, through the behaviors we see through having a conversation. One of the things I love about our organization is whether you're coming in for a small consumer account, a business account, anything that you're doing, all the way up to our corporate institutional banking team, we're going to have a conversation with you and really understand, where are you trying to get to? Why? How are you doing that now? And what would success look like for you? And through that conversation, I can often identify what I can do to help you be successful. And sometimes it may not directly be me. It may be Stephanie and Rinnie is who I need to connect them with to get them started so that they have someone that they recognize and they're comfortable with to begin the conversation. But it's through that conversation that we understand, which is also something to think about with your banker. When you walk in, are they immediately trying to set you up with solutions, or are they spending time with you to really identify why this business is so important to you? Where did you come from with this idea? How are you currently managing it? Why are you managing it that way? What obstacles have you run into and how did you remedy those? And then understanding, oh, here's some things that I can help you with, and here's some things that you may not have considered, and doing the full calculation. So I've sat with business owners and done the math around, this is how much money you're spending by driving your deposit across town, waiting in line, and making the deposit and driving back. I did the calculation for how much they were spending in labor per month to do that, as opposed to if they got a unit at the desk where they could run the checks through, or even better, establishing a digital way to be able to accept their payments, which also provided them safety and minimized their risk. So that is a big way to kind of also navigate behind, past that scarcity mindset and helping them see, here's how you could actually benefit, and not being afraid to talk about the fear and the obstacles too.
Mhm.
What scares you about this? What have you heard? What have you seen? Okay, let's address that and be honest. As a banker, I like to be honest about what could be your risk with getting the machine on your desk. It can malfunction, right? This could happen. But how often does that really occur? And is there someone to help you when that does happen? And is there another option? Because you still could drive that day. That's not being taken away from you, but you'll have this option on a daily basis. And then what could your person do with now I think 1 week we calculated it was 15 hours of time that they were spending. What could you do with your business with 15 hours of additional time that you could pour back into it, right? So that is the way that we try to work and move past the scarcity mindset to help them move towards abundance and thinking, how much more could I do if I take this step? If I make this investment, if I gain this technical skill and understand why I need to have an SOP, right? Or why I should partner with this other organization that is way better at this piece than I am, but I'm really good at this particular skill. And if we're willing to work in unison with each other, I minimize my risk, I minimize my costs, but I've gained so much time that I can put back into my business. And I know that my consumers are now protected and are getting the best opportunity from me.
I love that.
Wow, everything you
Yeah.
say just was so moving to me, especially, I mean, while you were talking, you mentioned trauma around money, and the first thing was like, what resources can we offer around that? And I was like Googling while you were talking, like trauma around money resources, because I had never thought of that as a piece of the puzzle. I
There
think
is a
about,
lot of,
I was thinking
sorry.
about the mindset part of it, but not the trauma around it. And if we can't address the trauma, we can't maybe even begin to address the mindset around it. So everything you said just made me rethink, part of the reason we want to do this podcast series is because we want to create a module around money mindsets. And I think you just like broke open a whole piece of it for me to consider as we move forward. So thank you, Venus.
That goes back to when I was, first starting out and thinking about root causes. And I remember as I talked to local community committers, and which evolved as my career grew at PNC, to business owners, is, why are you doing it that way? What made you decide that you should never put your savings in an actual account? Why do you always purchase this, card from across the street as opposed to, getting a formal checking account? Why did you go to the payday loan place? And so often you would hear, growing up, this is what I saw, or this is what I encountered. And then also going back to what you and I experienced, Rinnie, is just a lack of knowledge and awareness. I didn't know that this existed. You'd be surprised how many business owners didn't know that there are plenty of checking accounts where they can, separate their business and protect themselves formally by putting it in a business account, and they don't all have exorbitant costs, right? And it comes with a lot of benefits to make sure that you've removed liability from you personally, which is kind of one of those first steps that you want to take, especially depending on the type of business that you have, right? So I realize that when we have these conversations too, we have to understand, where did you learn this and why are you doing it that way? In a way that's comfortable and just exploring. Like, I want to get to know you. Tell me about, what your parents used to do with their funds and what did they teach you? There was a class that I taught with probably mid to senior level bankers in a different state. And I asked them to put in the chat how they all learned about money. Where did they specifically learn about credit cards, and checking accounts? And almost everyone put their family. So when you think about, like, what if you didn't have that? What if your parents didn't know about starting a business, a 401k, liability? How should I be organized? What is an unofficial board? Is important for me to understand, what the tax implications are if I show a lot of revenue. And but if I don't show a lot of revenue because I think that has some sort of tax implication, what does that do to me if I want to apply for a loan? Like, where do you learn that if you don't have your family? So we realize that education is a huge piece, which, going back to your strategy question, I think anytime you can softly expose folks to education, just thinking about what they want to learn or what they might not know, or even what you're hearing about fear, that is a great way to add comfortability with exploring, building, and establishing a financial institution relationship. Because when they see that there are benefits to that, there are things that they can learn or be aware of in a way that's comfortable, then they get excited. They're ready to ask more questions. They want to understand, how does that apply to my business specifically? And then I think they become ready to walk that journey.
Yeah, when we started WEBB, we were really clear that we were wanting to address the racial wealth gap. And so knowing that, like, financial literacy, financial illiteracy has a huge historical context that's collective, that shows up individually. There's a collective history around that then shows up in your family, and then how it shows up in all the ways, and how you view institutions. Like when I shared about how I used to look at banks, what you know or not know about money and what it can do for you, how you make decisions around money, how you even plan and prepare. So I love that you are sharing from a banking perspective healthier ways to think about money, and how we make decisions, and different ways we can build bridges over some of that trauma, so that we may not necessarily, have to do a deep dive about why we're here, but knowing that it's there, how can we go beyond it so that we can get back to the business of building our wonderful products and services that we're offering. So I really appreciate all that you shared and your framing in this conversation. Thank you.
Yes, I concur. This is really amazing because I always, thinking about perspectives around bankers, you go into a bank and you talk to them for a couple minutes. And what I'm hearing from you is that it's more than just capital. It's like building relationships and building a partnership with the entrepreneurs rather than just like, okay, it's a resource. But you're moving beyond helping people with their mindsets. You're helping people move, forward and feel safe. And, truthfully, you're pulling back the veil on the job of what banking is all about for me. Because I was in a bank yesterday. It was just like, what are you here for? Go up to the teller. So this is really exciting. I appreciate you coming on the podcast to talk about these things.
Thank
And
you.
if y'all
I think
listening, go to PNC.
I think it's definitely the root of community development banking because it's never the goal to just get you to the next step. It's to build a foundation, change the mindset, and make sure that we've set you up to be successful in the future. So I know my kids get mad at me all the time because when they, want help with doing something, I'm like, come over here, let me show you. And they'll joke, they're like, you're always trying to teach us to fish. Can you just give me the fish?
It doesn't work that way.
That later. They're gonna thank you later. Yeah.
Sometimes, but not always. But you know what? I have a 12-year-old, son that could cook us a full meal. And
That's
so
right.
I know if
That's
like
right.
I'm over in the community one day, like he'll completely be okay. So yes, we like to teach you to fish.
Nice.
Well, on that note, I think why don't we have a wrap up and we'll have you back on at some other point, Venus, to continue talking about these issues. But is there anything anybody wants to say, like to wrap up our conversation?
Yes, we started with the new habit or thing that we were doing this year. So I would love, from your perspective, Venus, to tell our audience, our entrepreneurs, and anyone who's listening, what's one small step someone can take this week to get closer to some funding from a bank?
I think the easiest step is to, whether you ask around, you reach out to Stephanie or Rinnie, you can absolutely reach out to me, but establish a relationship with a banker. Just start. And it can be very small. It can just be an email message or a LinkedIn connection and just get to know each other, even if you don't need them yet. Because those best, strongest relationships are built outside of need, right? It's that person that's really thought about, who are you? What are you passionate about? Why do you care about that? Because I can help you best when I really understand you. So please take an effort to just even research someone that you think you might be comfortable with and ask around about them and take that step to send a message and make that connection.
Thank you. I'm going to take that to heart. Thank you, Venus. Thank you so much.
Venus, definitely thank you for joining us and grounding this conversation in both mindset and real world strategies for, funding and banking relationships. And I'm going to put some information about how people can reach you in our show notes so that if anyone's inspired to reach out, which I hope they will be, they can say, I heard you on the WEBB Remedy Podcast.
Thank you so much, Rinnie and Stephanie.
So Stephanie, it's been a while since you've closed out a podcast episode. Why don't you close us out?
I know. And thank you, Rinnie, for pulling all this together. And to all of our listeners, this is what we love to say at WEBB Squared. Our evolution begins with dialogue.
As we wrap up this powerful money mindset conversation, let's pause and take in a few key takeaways. You can approach your finances and your banker with clarity instead of fear, and there are steps you can take now to prepare for funding and protect your business. A huge thank you to Venus Myles for joining us and grounding this conversation in both mindset and real-world strategy, and very deep gratitude to PNC Bank for sponsoring and partnering with us to make this conversation series possible. For everyone listening, if today sparked something in you, take this reflection question with you. Where is scarcity driving your decisions right now, and what would a more strategic, supported choice look like? Until next time, keep leading with clarity, confidence, and a mindset that moves you and your business forward. Thank you for listening to the WEBB Remedy Podcast, a mindset shifting project of WEBB Squared. Wealth Through Entrepreneurship for Black and Brown Businesses is a North Carolina nonprofit located in Chatham County. We offer incubator accelerator business services to Black and BIPOC entrepreneurs. Our podcast hosts are Stephanie Terry and Rinnie, the co-founders of WEBB Squared. We realize that building an ecosystem of support is critical to achieving our mission. Your donation to WEBB supports the podcast, WEBB's coaching services, and the promotion of the businesses and entrepreneurs we serve. To learn more about WEBB Squared, please visit our website at webbsquared.org.